We welcome Bryan Taunton, candidate for mayor in Sylacauga's municipal election runoff, coming up a week from today. And Bryan, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Jim Adele.
We're on the home stretch now with a week from today, the election.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been, the past week's been fun. It's been a lot of great developments that have come toward our campaign. I've had the joy and pleasure to continue being out there and meeting the great folks of our community and hearing their feedback and everything. It's been, I'll tell you, it's, I continue to lose weight because I'm out there walking and meeting and greeting, but I love it. I love having those conversations with the folks of Sylacauga, and they've all been so gracious. And I will say they're ready for this election to be over, and I'm sure that my opponent is too. Let's get this behind us and get about the city business that we need to be doing.
Since we talked last, several endorsements have come into your camp. Talk about that.
Yes, they have. We discussed. Mayor Jim Heigl endorsed our campaign. Greer Wright Bizignani, who won District 1, endorsed our campaign. Bryan Taunton, who was in District 4, has endorsed our campaign. Laura Barlow Heath has endorsed our campaign, and then even her opponent in District 5, John Wesson, has endorsed our campaign, and Zach Mayo, who ran in District 3, has endorsed our campaign also.
So what does this mean, Bryan?
Well, I mean, I think it means that these people who are going to be city leaders in our community, who are actively working and volunteering on various levels in our community, much like the people who have contributed and donated to my campaign, believe that I am the right man for the job. They believe that I stand the greatest possibility of moving Sylacauga forward into the future, and I greatly appreciate that. I greatly appreciate the letters of endorsement that they've put out there. And I think gracious, it just speaks volumes. When quality people like this endorse you and embrace you and see you as the best pick. And, let me just say this. The debate question's been out there. There's not going to be a debate. That's firmly behind us now. We get that. So I guess, unfortunately, what we're going to do, I'm glad that you have this platform, but we're playing this cat and mouse game from one episode to the next when I come on and he comes on. And there's a lot of for lack of a better word, quite frankly, mudslinging that's taking place. And the very idea to come on and, say that, paint the picture that I'm a liar, to paint the picture that there's possible ethics violation because of one certain donor who gave a large amount to my campaign. Let's be completely transparent about that. First, this individual, he says that they're a client of mine. No, they're not. The contract with the CDA has expired. There is nothing there. This same individual who had the potential of a large, very, very large development going possibly on his property, that deal fell through. It didn't work out for various reasons, which came from a city reflection that the developer saw and chose not to come to Sylacauga. Yet this individual believes in my campaign so much and believes in my leadership ability so much that despite the fact that deal fell through, he still believes that I am the best candidate and chose to invest in our campaign. And I have to say, if we're going to call anything out, Jimmy Dale, I showed you last week, and it's still true, to be stated that there's possible ethics violation on my behalf. And this isn't mudslinging, this is just the facts of the matter. You can go to the Secretary of State's website and look it up, and everything that's been given to my campaign, every expense that I have had up to now, as of last week, is on the Secretary of State's website for all the public to see. Yet my opponent still says that he's only received $4,300 and something dollars, or excuse me, spent $4,300 and something dollars on his campaign, $4,800 or so, that money that's been donated, and a little over $1,000 in in-kind expenses that have been given to his campaign. And then openly admits on air with you that he has personally contributed $23,000 of his own money to his campaign. That's all fine and well, but you still have to disclose it. You still have to report it. You still have to explain where you spent this money in great detail. And my opponent has not filed a financial disclosure since August the 23rd. Right now, we're supposed to be filing not monthly, but weekly. There should be weekly updates. So I would say, once again, in the effort of transparency and disclosure, if one cannot run their campaign in an ethical way, in such a fashion as the state law requires us to do, why would we believe that they would exhibit anything different in serving as mayor? And that brings a lot to question. So we can sling mud. I'm not slinging mud. I'm just stating just the facts of what's there. And I hate we have to go down this road, but that's the truth. I can't just sit back and not come back and defend such flagrant allegations and just let people, fall into that trap. I'm not going to let that happen to our city. I'm going to tell the truth.
Bryan Taunton, candidate for mayor in the mayoral runoff election coming up a week from today, September the 23rd. We haven't spent a whole lot of time, but I do want to step to this point today. Talk about in depth the vision that you have as mayor of the city of Sylacauga going forward.
I definitely will. First, I'd like to back up just a minute and talk about the vision of my opponent. He mentioned the 4-lane project, and he wanted to get with AlDOT and find out what's going on there. Well, he doesn't know what's going on there because he hasn't been engaged. I have been a part of this process. I was in working with city government when all that was going on, volunteering, attending city council meetings. And the bottom line is the state ran out of money. The funding for that project, they ran out of money, and they were buying properties along 280, bought certain properties in Fairmont. That's why I forget what road it is that comes out right there on top of the mountain. There are several properties there that the houses have been vacated and they've been torn down because the state purchased those properties.
I remember that several years ago.
Yes, and then there were other properties. Once they ran out of money, they decided they were going to try to declare eminent domain. And then they found out the residents didn't want that, and they found themselves entering into a lot of lawsuits. And so the state decided we're not going to go down this road, and they backed off. Furthermore, while I'm not opposed to the idea of approaching AlDOT about some turning lanes down through there, I think that might be a pretty good idea. But I'm not sure, in talking with the citizens and the folks that live in Fairmont, if they want a 4-lane right there in front of their subdivision when they're trying to take their children to school in the morning, and you've got people coming over Fairmont Mountain who, you know how we are when we go over a hill, you start picking up speed, and next thing you know, we've already got people that are flying down Highway 21.
18-wheelers included.
18-wheelers included. And to try to get across 4 lanes of traffic to take your child to school, I think it creates a dangerous situation. Another thing that he mentioned was the access to the wreck, and maybe a overpass, a walk overpass over there. Okay, that's a project that you're going to have to go back to AlDOT, and you're talking about millions of dollars that would have to be put into that and making that happen, when quite frankly there's no need, because our rec department has done a fantastic job at developing a plan to handle the pedestrian traffic through there, and even establishing a plan to reduce the speed limit and to put a new crosswalk in at the corner of 10th and Norton, which has already been approved by our chief of police, and those drawings have already been approved by our city council and have been accepted. So they've got a plan in place for that. Is that going to be enough? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Again, I still come back to if we're having a lot of foot traffic that's coming across there, then there may be need for a shuttle bus or something that could be accessible from for our kids that are over on the other side of town that need to come across 21 to create an easier path. The other thing that he mentioned was an overpass over the railroad tracks on Broadway. Again, these things I would say, nothing against my opponent, it just demonstrates lack of understanding in how ALDOT works and real cost evaluations in steps such as an overpass over these railroad tracks, what that's going to mean. I've talked with a city engineer who's a friend of mine, and he helped me find the last overpass that was built, I think, in the state of Alabama was in Pelham, and it went over one railroad track. That was a $52 million project.
Wow.
Now, to go over 3 railroad tracks, you know, and the length and breadth of which they are apart right there on Broadway, that overpass would probably have to start at about City Hall and wouldn't land until it got to Sylacauga High School. Now, what do you say then to Phil Turner and all of these other businesses, Greg Atkinson, that have Tubbs Pool Supply, that have businesses right there that would just essentially be, their front usage would be completely blocked. And there's no other preparations on the back side to deal with that. So that's not feasible. I'll tell you what is feasible for our railroad situation, and that is instead of spending $250 million, which certainly we don't have and the state is never going to abdicate for, ALDOT is never going to approve that. Furthermore, your railroads are not going to approve those shipping lanes, those freight lanes to be shut down. Can you imagine what that would do to our local industry who need that? As much as we hate the railroad stopping traffic on Broadway, that's money. That is money that is being produced and shipped out of our town. It's paying industrial employees in our city. We don't need to stop anything there. What do we do then? Okay? We can put in an automated warning system that ties to our railroad gates, that puts variable message signage that's activated by the railroad crossing there. It's train activated that shoots a message up to a half mile at one place and maybe a mile down the road to let people know, choose an alternate route because there's a train on the tracks. We can do that on both the north end and the south end of Broadway to notify people. That can also include an EMS notification to let our 911 dispatcher know that all EMS vehicles need to take an alternate route. That's very easily done. Now we're talking about a cost not of $250 million plus dollars, but of maybe $50,000 to $100,000. And those systems are widely used. They're out there. There's no reason that we couldn't take advantage of that and save us a lot of money. It's a proven solution. We can do that, no problem. Music downtown, we'd all love to see that happen. I've been down that road. I worked on that project for 2 years, got it approved by City Council to move forward, got the money set aside to make that happen. And then what we discovered, Jimmy Dale, is while we thought, because there's plugs at the bottom of the light poles downtown, that we could access that power to put this sound system in. Sadly, unbeknownst to us at the time, what we discovered is all of those are controlled by the same electronic eye that powers the light pole, the street lamps. Well, that means that the system would only be able to work at night when there is power accessing those poles. And that sound system has to be placed strategically in areas so that it can be heard, and also so that it can receive the signal that's being sent. There's no way from the utilities board, they are, after what they went through and just trying to get those light poles set up, they're never going to have those negotiations with AlDOT again. They said, no way, we're not going back to that drawing board again, because it was terrible what we went through and just trying to get that accomplished. We could do something on the backside, or maybe there's some alternate solution that we can look at, but it would have to then be power driven by the individual businesses that are there that would agree to take care of that power usage bill, which actually would be very minimal. We're talking about $3 to $5 a month on their power bill. But, you know, when we're talking about vision, let's talk about real vision. We've got to talk about our crime issues. We've got to focus on solving those and bringing our stats down, and I'm going to circle back to that. We've got to work to let the world know that Sylacauga is open for business. Give Calvin Miller and the IDB the tools that they need to help us grow industrially and economically, in order that we can provide the real jobs that our city needs, and also start to encourage residential growth in our city. We've got a lot of opportunity in our city for residential growth. We've got to focus on growing our population. Population is the number one thing. Everybody wants these family amenities to come to our city, but if we don't start our population growing, they're not interested. So we've got to focus on that, and that's going to come by way, partially by a strategic annexation plan, which I have promoted. It's on my website. Part of that includes annexing the Mill Village and opening doors so that we can increase our industrial footprint to make our city more desirable to industry to come. And then we got to focus on workforce development. We do that not just through the Earth Project, but by implementing new programs into our school system. We need to work then too on just promoting our city. Like I said, letting the world know that we're open for business, and I think also focusing on advancing our hospital and its opportunity, its capability, and to recruit new physicians to town. I've already mentioned helping in our school systems. And then we need to focus also on our nuisance and abatement program and get some more assistance in there. We've got one officer in the street right now, and let's be honest, the problem that we're having in Sylacauga concerning vacated properties, overgrown properties, it's way beyond one individual. So we've got to get some assistance there. I think we need, I've spoke about an urban renewal project. We need to implement that so that we can help to focus on various neglected areas of our community. And then certainly, I'm going to circle back to the Earth Project. We definitely want to walk hand in hand with them through their project and create relationships with those industries that will come in there so they don't just start here, but they stay here. But then let's look at some quick things that we need to do, that we need to focus on before we can even think about these projects. You know what? Job one for this new administration is going to be focusing on the budget that's not completed yet. So we're immediately going to have to start to focus on that. Something else that's a real need in our city. We need a real city website that's updated regularly, that provides opportunities for our citizens to be able to go and read these resolutions so that they can be educated on what the city council is talking about. Because if you go to a work session, or if you're in a city council meeting, you watch it, all you're hearing is resolution number ... -2025. The citizens need to be able to read that, and that's what's going to motivate them to come to the city council meetings and take part. And we desperately need to hear from our community. So we get these posted on our website, give people opportunity to go and read these things for themselves, so they can then judge for themselves whether they want to come and voice their opinion on the matter, and we give them that opportunity. And then we need to address our phone system at City Hall. We've got it. That's an immediate need that's got to be fixed.
It's amazing that it's going on this long.
I am beyond words on why this has gone on this long, and it's simply been neglected. And that's probably a poor choice of words. I shouldn't say that. Whatever the issues are in being able to get that cleared up and negotiating with this new company, we need to do. Or, you know what, if they can't solve the issues, we need to get a new company, cancel the contract, and find someone else. And then another need that we've got to look at, we've got a city clerk situation that we've got to address. What are we going to do there? Well, quite frankly, I know there's been some folks that have taken the test. I'm not sure how they all did, but I think we need to I would encourage our city government to slow your roll right there, because I think there needs to be some significant changes regarding city clerk and treasurer. And what I mean by that is, quite frankly, our city clerk treasurer position as it is presently defined has become too large a role for one individual, because we have ongoing incentives that the city treasurer is having to deal with. They're continue to grow. That's going to continue to grow as new business and new industry comes to our city. If we're going to actively go out and recruit them, we're going to have to offer them something to get them here. That's going to expand that city treasurer role. So for that to be one person, I think we need to redefine that role, and we need a city clerk who handles the management of City Hall and clerks for the city council, the mayor, and then we need a city treasurer. And so we need to step back and redefine those roles, and then that obviously is going to mean the city clerk treasurer role is, as it's split, that city clerk position, there's going to need to be a reduction in pay there because it's not going to be as detailed a position. And then we'll define the pay structure for a city treasurer. And we also need to, it's been in our budget every year since Tommy Rumsey left. We need a city planner.
It's been a while.
It's been a number of years. We've got to fill that role. We need a city planner that understands city growth and all the aspects of that to bring them in. And also, for instance, right now we've got a lot of pavement going down on our roads, but no one's speaking to the fact that we've got so much asphalt that is just pancaked up because we're not, I don't believe, and I could be wrong, that we're grading effectively to bring those crowns down to help with some of this flood mitigation. And we need a city planner to address those issues. And then on top of that, there's several city positions which have been vacated and will be vacated in the very near future. And we've got to make sure that we have the right individual that knows people, that's been through many interview processes and knows how to hire the right people. And also make sure that we're networking and getting out there, reaching beyond just our Sylacauga city borders to recruit people, professional people, to come in and help us run this city. That's just part of the experience in leadership. And I think that's one of the things that separates me from my opponent, is I'm looking at these things. I understand when it comes to the state road and his aspirations regarding the railroad, the overpass, you know what? Through the CDA, I've dealt with ALDOT. I've had those conversations. I know who to contact. And I have had some of these conversations, so I have an intimate knowledge and understanding of what they're going to go along with and what they're absolutely not going to do. And one thing I can tell you about the railroads and ALDOT is you don't tell them. They will tell you. Now, we can bicker and go back and forth, and hopefully in that we find a solution that works for both of us. But you've got to know how to have those conversations. You've got to know who to contact. And I do, because I've done it. I've been there.
Last but not least, we'll talk about crime today.
Okay, again, that comes back to experience and leadership. My opponent has said that I shouldn't be discussing that and that my statistics are off. Not true. You can go to, I'm talking about the long-term picture. I'm not just talking about 2024 versus 2025. Those statistics you do have to get from our police department. Those statistics that have been given from Chief Muse demonstrate that the worst case scenarios in crime in our city, that is the murder, drugs, and so forth, is definitely on the rise from 24 to 25. If you look at the overall picture going all the way back to 2020, and you can do this for yourself, go to FBI.gov. The FBI doesn't lie. I mean, you can go and look those statistics up because the FBI gets that from the city of Sylacauga, and then they simply report it. Mm-hmm. And then there's hundreds of other websites out there that reflect those same numbers. All you have to do is go look at it and search. The statistics aren't biased, they're not fake. And the allegation to say that I shouldn't be talking about these things because as chair of the CDA, I'm supposed to be promoting our city. Well, that's a little naive, because when I'm talking to these individuals about bringing their business to Sylacauga, if I represented anything else or if I chose to just sweep it under the rug, I'm not being transparent, one. And two, they already know. We're talking to business owners and professionals, leaders who have already done the research on our community. So I'm not telling them anything new if they hear me say that we've got a crime issue. No, what they're excited about is the fact that we might have a leader such as myself who recognizes that we have a crime issue in our city, and I want to seek to solve that crime issue or bring those numbers down. We're never going to do away with it all, but we can work to reduce those numbers. And that's my objective. I'm not going to sweep it under the rug. I'm not going to not talk about it. We have to talk about these issues if we're going to solve them. And I think that's a lot of the difference between me and my opponent. He has administration background through the school system. I have administration background through corporate leadership through the years. There's a great difference. When it comes to school administration, most of what you can do, your rules and how you negotiate with employees, it's laid out for you. You don't have to have a lot of intuition and so forth because the board tells you largely what you can and cannot do. Where in corporate business leadership, you have to think outside the box. You have to come up with creative solutions. And that's my experience, and that's what I'm good at. And as I know, as we're coming to a close here, Jimmy, that's the difference between us. I'm willing to go there and discuss these hard truths that no one else wants to talk about. And that's partially what's been wrong in our city. And I will talk about those hard truths, and I'm going to work to solve those issues. Just like the campaign finance issue, I'm going to do the difficult thing, and I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to obey state law, and I'm going to operate in compliance. And these are the very things that differentiate me from my opponent.
Bryan Taunton, candidate for mayor in the September 23rd runoff election, which is a week from today. Bryan, always thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Jimmy Dale.
More coming up after this.